It brings healing to people who are suffering. And we have what we have because of their suffering. And we could do a trip a month and still not take every veteran everywhere they need to go. When they go to a place that represents in their mind war and noise and confusion and pain, and they go back and that place is at peace, it changes the real that goes in their mind and it brings them peace. What's the most important to them, even above and beyond their own healing, is that what they did is remembered. And so the educational website is our main priority, because the ones that can go on the trips get great healing, but not many can go. So for the ones who can't go, they get healing knowing that their story will be told through lesson plans, hopefully forever, and that their sacrifices will be remembered. And if you keep a name alive and you continue to say that name and you continue to tell their story, then their sacrifices and the story of their sacrifices never ends. And that's why our tagline is the eternal salute, because we want to eternally salute the people that gave us the life that we have today. And we also want the next generation to really understand. That's why at Honoring Veteran Legacies, we're taking a student on every trip with us, because it's life-changing, and we want their lives to be changed. Eventually, every grade level and every subject. We're focusing right now on middle school and high school, and we will have a lesson plan, at least one, and sometimes many, for each veteran testimony. And each lesson plan will have 2 or 3 minutes of that veteran's story that talks about their sacrifice. For instance, we've interviewed a man that taught artillery, which is just basic physics. So there's a physics lesson, and then there's him talking about the forward observers and what they sacrificed when they had to actually see where the shell hit and tell them to adjust. We have a lesson on what shrapnel does to the body. We have a lesson on Agent Orange. We have a lesson on a PE lesson, a World War II veteran who was marched at the end of the war as a POW, and he talks about everywhere he went. So there's a PE lesson on, can you make those steps? There's a geography lesson on mapping it. There's a health lesson on calories in and calories out, because they were doing it with nothing but rutabagas to eat, and the occasional cow they could steal milk from when they stayed in a barn. These stories are stories that can be told through every subject rather than just history, so that's the idea behind what we're doing. We have been able to take veterans, Vietnam and Korean veterans, to Washington, D.C. And we've had veterans, we had a couple of veterans on our latest trip to go see the commemoration of the Korean Memorial Wall, who had their brothers' names on there. They served in Korea and they both lost brothers there. So to be able to go and see your buddy or your brother and their name etched in the wall, and also have support from your brothers and your sisters. A lot of people, I've seen people who did not have the nerve to go until one of these trips where they travel with fellow veterans to support them, then they're able to go. And when they see that name, they get an etching of that name, they touch that name, it brings healing. We would love to do the Vietnam and Korea trips, but again, it's just all about money. And there's so many veterans that need healing, and there's some that will only experience it if they show up in Vietnam and they see what a thriving community is. And some of the people who live there in South Vietnam are able to tell them what it means. Some won't experience healing unless they go back to Korea and see that it's free and democratic. Some can experience healing just at the wall. Some can experience healing just from attending our meetings or going on our outings or our small trips. But we want to help God bring healing to them all. And we're looking for enough money to be able to do that. Every single person that donates is a partner in their journey. And not just people who donate, people who pray for us, people who write letters and cards to them, people who come and volunteer here in town, volunteers that go with us on a trip, or someone who can't do all that and they write a check, no matter how big or how small. They're partners in bringing this healing to these veterans. And the veterans know, we make them aware of what's been given for them, because the more people who participate, the more people who give, the more it says to them that what they did really mattered. And I'm telling you, they walk around here, the ones who are in combat, like nothing's wrong. But if you stop and talk to them, they have dreams, they're in therapy, sometimes they have periods where they can't go out. They're still reliving, still suffering, and it's not just combat veterans. Everybody suffered. There's survivor's guilt. There were people who couldn't go because they were, for whatever reason, physically they couldn't go, or they were deemed, better for the war effort to stay home, and they feel guilty. And then there are those that go, but they didn't leave the states, and they feel guilty. And then there are those who left the states but weren't on the front lines, and they feel guilty. And then there are those on the front lines, and they're not wounded, and they feel guilty. And those wounded that survived, they're not dead, so they feel guilty. And I've heard it often said that only the dead don't feel guilty. So there are so many different types of healing that need to be brought into their lives, and they deserve it, and we need more people conscious of it and helping in any way that they can.